In the mid-1800s, a deeply evangelical woman from England named Jane Ellis Hopkins started leading a movement of both feminist and evangelical Christians to combat prostitution in the country. Back in that age, prostitution was very popular among those in Europe and even in America. With it became a panic around venereal diseases being spread across the countries and women being taken advantage of. And so, some politicians started talking about a possible solution to this prostitution problem, and their solution was to legalize prostitution. I wonder why. But the social purity movement and evangelicals started speaking up and fighting back. In its deepest roots, the social purity movement was started to protect young women from prostitution, contraception, abortions, and male sexual predators. On the surface, it wasn't aimed at controlling women so much, but instead aimed at creating purity societies to help men resist sexual temptation. But in practice, it did a ton of damage to women as well, trying to control female sexuality by deterring women from participating in sexual activity at all. Very basically, their way of ending prostitution and rape was to convince men that they needed to control themselves from anything erotic, and women needed to never have intercourse. By the time the movement made its way across Europe and to America, there were several other people involved in the movement at that point who had very different agendas in mind. The evangelical Christian side of the movement took over what some may call the good intentions of the group in the first place. They began trying to control any kind of sex anywhere in the world. They started going after pornographic images, claiming how it was provoking young men to rape women. They went after women for wearing certain clothes because it wasn't ladylike and it was provoking young boys. And they went after gay people because, in their eyes, being homosexual couldn't possibly have any love involved. From their perspective, same-sex partners were only lusting after one another, which we know to be not true at all. Oddly enough, the social Puritans were perfectly fine with older men having sexual relationships with very young girls, but they somehow drew the line in the sand of a man having intercourse with another consenting man of the same age. Oh no. Nonetheless, this movement went on to become the main reason why many schools across America and around the world aren't allowed to have sexual education other than abstinence-only discussions. And their movement is the main reason why sex workers, like adult film actors, are persecuted so much in today's society. But back in 1844, their movement backfired on them massively. They wanted to create places where men wouldn't be tempted by women and women wouldn't be tempted by a man. So, they created an organization called the YMCA. To stop men from thinking about women or erotic images, the social purity movement and evangelicals pushed men around the world to socialize in their YMCA facilities. The activities they encouraged included socializing with other men while swimming nude, calisthenics, and other physical activities. By the 1920s and 30s, YMCA became known as the Why Am I So Gay organization, because it was where many gay men met with other gay men. Essentially, the social purity movement, founded on the ideals to stop men from having same-sex desires, created the perfect place for them to meet one another in person, to start relationships, and to have intercourse in the men's rooms. And while some see this as a monumental oversight and backfiring of their movement, the damage they did to our society far outweighed the oversight of the YMCA. Thank you so much for watching. Check back to see more LGBTQ lessons in history, health, science, literature, and more every single week. As always, I'm your host, Professor Pride. Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now.